And welcome to another episode of Ardent Cinema, the number one podcast for a book club style discussion of all things movies. This is a weekly podcast, and we encourage you to follow along as we take a deep dive into each movie's plot, overall themes, what we thought of the acting and directing, our feelings on the film, and more. At the end of each episode, we will announce the movie for next week, so make sure to listen until the end. I am your neg-headed downer host, Sean.
I am your savant host, Daniel.
Welcome to the show. Soy Alejandro de España, no hablo español.
You're all winos.
This week, we hope you watch along with us for Sideways 2004.
Let me show you how this is done. Hold the glass up and examine the wine against the light. You're looking for color and clarity. Now, stick your nose in it. Maybe some strawberry. Oh, there's just a flutter of like a nutty Edam cheese.
When do we drink it?
Now. Are you chewing gum?
No. Here's my last week of freedom.
We're gonna play some golf, eat some great food, and we're gonna send you off in style. It's gonna be great.
Miles, these girls want to party with us. If they want to drink Merlot, we're drinking Merlot.
No, if anybody orders Merlot, I'm leaving. I am not drinking any Merlot!
Oh, how do we get back to my place?
Tonight we are celebrating Miles' book deal, published author.
Oh, what's the title?
The day after yesterday.
Oh, you mean today?
Why did you tell them that my novel was being published?
We're gonna go have some fun, Miles. Do you remember fun?
I spent 3 years trying to extricate myself from a relationship that was full of deception.
I am not Jack.
Written and directed by Alexander Payne, based on the novelization of the same name. Tell me, fools, who wrote the book?
Some wino.
No sé.
Correct, Rex Pickett. Starring Paul Giamatti as Miles, Thomas Hayden Church as Jack, Virginia Madsen as Maya, and Sandra Oh as Stephanie. Ken and Miles are taking a week-long road trip through California wine country. Jack wants one last hurrah before he's married, while Miles just wants an escape. While there, they meet Maya and Stephanie working in the wine industry. Jack strikes up an inappropriate relationship while Miles struggles to escape his nebbish and self-destructive tendencies. All right, boys, what'd you think?
I love this film. I thought it was great, actually. The interplay between the two characters, and really once they met the girls and they started to interact with them, I thought, all of it was very well done, very well acted. I really liked their relationship, even if there were some problematic things about it and some problematic things about, what they did. But ultimately, I thought their journey through the week before Jack's wedding, I thought was just highly engaging. I was never bored. I had at least like a smile or just laughed out loud. So
Yeah,
that's always a good sign of a quality movie for me. What about you, Danny?
Yeah, I loved the movie. It was great. I love the chemistry between the two main characters. They're almost a bit of a yin and yang type of duo. Jack being very extroverted and out there and kind of a ladies' man.
Womanizer.
A bit of a womanizer. And
Skirt chaser.
yeah, and Miles being more introverted to himself, but they almost complete each other in this film. Like they're both kind of almost made for one another as friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was very funny at times. Very good comedy. It was written. It felt very real. The movie. It was very grounded. It had very good pacing.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
agree.
good way to put it. Yeah.
Overall, so it gave an interesting message, which I think we'll talk about later.
A few. I agree with a lot of your points. I found it to be endearingly honest with a lot of charm. All four of our characters felt really fleshed out, which I think you hinted at, Danny.
Yep.
And without being watered down to fit any external values. They're just complete characters. I like that there weren't too many distractions or subplots also, and not too much takes away from the core story. Everything that was in it had room to breathe and be fully explored. And once the threads reach the end, the movie ends. There's not too much fluff in this film.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. It's not like they don't need to throw anything crazy at you. There was nothing like flashy. You were expecting, at least in the beginning, I was kind of expecting, kind of like in Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, something is going wrong every 2 seconds. In this, they go on their journey. They get to the wine country. There's no problems for like the first I don't know, quarter of the film.
Wonderful.
It just feels like just a natural, smooth ride, and you're just focused on these characters, nothing to distract you. It was just written so well that it didn't need any of these gimmicks or any flashy moments.
Yeah, the conflicts in their relationship were enough drama.
Were enough,
Yeah.
exactly. And actually, the writing, I will say the writing was so good that this was the first film to win Best Screenplay from all 5 major critic groups.
Damn.
Wow.
Did not know that. I didn't know critic groups gave awards.
The National Board of Review, New York, Los Angeles, Broadcast Film Critics, and National Society of Film Critics, the Golden Globes, the BAFTAs, the WGA, and ultimately the Academy Awards.
This is the first Academy Award for Alexander Payne and Jim Taylor. Alexander Payne is also nominated tonight for directing Sideways.
Nice.
So,
They didn't get the Nickelodeon Choice Awards.
no, they missed out on that one.
The Teen's Choice.
No.
I want to jump off a point that Alejandro made earlier about the movie giving time for characters to develop. And, you know, once the plot ends, that's where the movie ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the second time I've seen this movie. And the first time that I actually watched with Alejandro sometime back. And I told him in the middle of the movie, like, man, I don't like this guy, him being Miles. He was actually pretty insufferable for me the first like 20 to 30 minutes. But if you can stick with it, you know, he becomes a bit more endearing over time and you learn more about him. I bring this up because I'm curious to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about media where the way the movie is structured, there's some element to it that is not ideal, or there's like a character that's insufferable?
I think interesting is far more important than likability. So I don't think there's even anything that you need to get through to get to the meat of this movie. I'm enjoying watching, as you put last week, deplorable characters. I don't have a problem with that. It's about the entertainment value.
Yeah, I mean, I could see what you're saying about Miles not being very likable in the very beginning, but I think it is worth the payoff at the very end because you see the evolution almost in his character throughout, you know, the trials that he goes through in this film. And in the beginning, you also have a bit of the comic relief kind of holding you down with Jack at the very least. So you get to see that, again, that contrasting dynamic. So, I mean, I didn't feel like I was kind of being dragged along in the beginning. I was enjoying it the whole time as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is a movie that for a long time I've heard about, but only up until this past year did I actually watch. If I hadn't had that invitation, and if I hadn't been watching with Alejandro, I think that first time that I watched it, I probably wouldn't have continued watching it past like the first 20, 30 minutes. There definitely been movies where I've started watching, I'm like, there's something about this I just don't like, whether it's a character, whether it's a plot point, what have you, and I'll just change it, right? But I feel like a lot of times I'm missing out on some kind of payoff, some kind of resolution that, you know, I find to be really resonant.
I think that speaks to you, whereas where you need to feel personally connected to the characters. I think that's an important aspect to you, which may not be the same for everybody. Would you agree with that?
I would mostly agree, but, you know, then I think to movies like Indiana Jones or Star Wars where, I mean, I don't feel any connection to the characters at all, but it's exciting and I enjoy it. You know what I mean? So there are definitely some cases where I would agree with you there, but other cases, like some of the older Marvel movies, you know, like I don't see myself in Captain America at all. You know, I don't.
You don't? Aren't they kind of blank slates? Isn't everybody Captain America?
Nah, not really.
Nah.
He's kind of a singular person.
So would you say for this film that you don't really relate to Miles at all throughout the
Oh,
entire
no, I'm not
film?
saying that. I'm saying the opposite. I think I do,
You
but the
do.
problem is
But
like the first like 20, 30 minutes when
You
I
didn't.
originally watched this, I was like, this guy's just like an insufferable jerk. Like he's all those people that I've met in my life where they're very high on their own supply. You know what I mean? In terms of like that one thing that they really know about and are very knowledgeable about, they just won't stop talking about it.
Right,
And
right. It's his whole identity.
Yeah, and they make it exactly. They make it their whole identity, and it's just a bit insufferable.
So after, you know, watching it to the end and seeing Miles, you know, learning more about Miles and his inner workings, can you look back in the beginning and kind of look at it through a different lens? perhaps, and maybe
Absolutely.
understand him a little bit more. And now he's maybe not so insufferable.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is the second time that I've watched this film, so I had a lot of prior knowledge about his character arc and his journey and like what makes him tick that colored my perception of this film. And actually, you know, not to get too much ahead, but I really enjoyed this film much more watching it this time than I did the first time that I watched it. But yes, I definitely see a lot of him, or there's some qualities he has that I feel like I have, and it helped me better understand him. But you know, like with relationships, like with meeting people, first impressions everything, right?
Right.
So if he's going on about, you know, this wine being quaffable, I'm like, bro, I don't care, dude. Like, shut up. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I mean, perhaps that has a little bit to say about one of the themes of this film, I believe, which is kind of also is about looking deeper than first impression. Like, you're able now to watch the whole film and then look back and realize why he was acting the way that he was. Where in the beginning you thought of it as insufferable, but then when you learn more about him, you realized that, you know, it made more sense to you.
no, absolutely. And you know, that speaks to a character like Jack, for example, where he's very one note in the beginning, or he's portrayed as a bit one note.
I think quite the opposite. Jack is more likable in the beginning, and he gets less likable
Oh, definitely.
as time goes on.
Oh, I agree, but I guess what I'm saying, I agree with that. But I guess what I'm saying is like he's likable, but also one note. Like he's just he has one thing in mind, and that's it, and like he doesn't deviate from that.
I'm going to get my nut on this trip, Miles.
Like he's funny, he's endearing in some sense, but like he's also just, that's his character, his womanizer.
Yeah.
But you know, we come to learn why he's feeling this way, why he's acting this way over time.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you that he becomes a bit yeah, they kind of switch for me.
Yeah.
He becomes more insufferable.
It's
as
definitely
the
like
movie passes.
don't judge a book by its cover in this movie, because then you realize the real selfish person in this film is Jack more so than Miles.
Yeah.
The way that he kind of just leaves Miles behind to go with this girl. He just starts pretty much dating her.
I thought the discovery was that they're the same. That was a discovery for me. Not that one is worse than the other, but one is more in tune with with their negatives, and one is in denial, which causes him self-hatred and depression and anxiety, these kind of things.
They definitely have a lot of similarities, but
Well, we'll jump ahead here. I'll give an
Yeah.
example. When Jack is checking out this waitress at the restaurant, Miles looks at him and Miles tells him off like, "Oh my God, dude, she's just a kid. What are you doing?" And, you know, this woman was probably 19 or in her 20s. Later on, you see him buying a porno rag called Barely Legal or whatever.
oh, that's
Right.
right.
So he's looking at the same things, but he's just more uppity about it, or he's in denial. You know what I mean? And also, Miles is constantly admonishing Jack about his cheating, his serial cheating. We find out later on that Miles cheated on his ex-wife, that he's still very much hung up on and very much in love with. So they're not all that different, but one kind of thinks a lot higher of himself, which is where all that self-loathing kind of comes from. Who he wants to be and who he is are very much out of balance,
Oh, yeah, I see that.
and the image he tries to portray to the world.
Yeah, he wants to seem like this higher than most intellectual, that can do no wrong almost. Yet
And looks down at Jack
and
for
looks
his
down-
behavior.
Right.
But he's a cheater, and he checks out young girls. You know, he's got the same pulse.
That's true.
Yeah, so Miles definitely has a lot of self-loathing going on. You know, I wonder if he was always that way, or if the last few years of his life, you know, when he got divorced and he started going into a spiral, did he really start getting into things like wine and start to adopt like a certain vocabulary? Or if he was like always that kind of person.
Well, no. Actually, when he was with his ex-wife, he was, I think, doing the same thing. When he talked to his wife on the phone, he did mention that he was out in like the field that they would go to or something like that. Like,
Right.
Yeah, he'd
Like,
been
they
into
used to-
wine for a while.
they
For
used
sure.
to do it together, him and his ex-wife,
Sure.
essentially.
But do you think like he adopted that more fervently as his personality?
That elitist mentality. You mean?
The elitist mentality, but also just like the holier than thou kind of mentality of like,
I
you
think
know,
so.
I'm very much particular about my wine. I'm using a particular set of, you know, addiction because I want to show an air of intelligence and of like wisdom.
Well, now he's compensating because now he doesn't have a nice home and a beautiful wife and a thriving career to go. This is very important to him, his image to the world.
That in and of itself, the idea of like going deep into something that you had some kind of passion about, I don't think is a bad thing.
No.
Right? Like Maya, for example, she got divorced and she's doing a master's degree in horticulture so that she can maybe work at a winery. Who knows? Maybe even open up her own. As a result, well, seemingly as a result of the divorce and, everything that happened in her past relationship. So you see both characters going in that path of like adopting something as part of their personality, but Miles just takes it to like the absolute extreme. Whereas Maya's like, well, I need to figure out what to do next. Right. And this is the only thing that I see that could be worthwhile.
Well, he derives ego from it, where she is confident in herself and her place in the world. I think that's the big difference.
And she's just pragmatic too.
She remains positive when talking about wines, whereas Miles is way more judgmental about it.
What was the wine he hates? Was it Pinots?
Merlot.
If they want to drink Merlot, we're drinking Merlot.
No, if anybody orders Merlot, I'm leaving. I am not drinking any fucking Merlot!
Okay. Relax, Miles. No Merlot. Did you bring your Xanax?
Well, he seemed like he was a little sauced already there. But yeah, I could tell that.
For sure.
That's maybe an opinion he holds anyways.
I don't think he was sauced. Weren't they? They were heading there from the hotel. He was
no,
sober.
they had done the wine tours the whole day before. Remember they
I
go
guess
up
from the day
to the northernmost winery and then they make their way back down, and that's where they meet Stephanie, and then they eventually go to dinner with the girls.
I think they go back to the hotel and then
he takes a nap first.
And he takes a nap, and then in the evening it switches to the evening and they go. I think he's sober. He's just hateful.
Yeah, he's just being a jerk there. I agree. But anyway, after he meets up with Jack and they head off on their trip, they make a quick pit stop at Miles' mother's house. And he says it's for her birthday, but I don't quite think that was his main incentive. What about you guys?
Oh, absolutely not.
Definitely not.
Why not? Why not?
For one, I don't think he cares that much about his mom because he doesn't even remember her age. So that's...
He knows, 70-something.
70-something.
It's been a while since she's seen him.
Yeah.
It's been a while. And, the only time he goes there is, to get money, essentially. And he doesn't even ask for it. He just goes into her bedroom, and he knows exactly where the money is already. He didn't have to go looking for it.
Checks to make sure Jack is distracting her.
Yep. And then he takes, they don't really show exactly how much, but it's a good amount, probably a few $100s.
It looked like $800 or $900 to me, because they were all 100 bills, and I was watching him, flip it out.
It's possible, yeah.
Which I wouldn't be surprised. It seemed like this was planned. I don't know about you guys, but it seemed like this was a planned pit stop to have some spending cash for the trip.
I think it was definitely planned. I mean, he's, I think, a substitute teacher or a regular English teacher for 8th grade. Just telling you, as somebody in the education business, especially an English teacher, that's not going to pay much. If he's like at a public school, that's definitely not going to pay much. So he needs some extra cash.
And here's what made the whole thing feel extra scummy. At the very end of that scene, the mother asks him, do you need some money? Do you need to borrow money again?
Right.
Essentially. So that pretty much tells you that the mom has been giving him money and he's stealing money at the same time. So it's just like, come on, dude.
That's interesting you bring that up, because I was thinking about that as we were just talking about it. And my thought is he's justifying it by, I feel like he would justify him taking the money because, she always says, hey, do you need the money? She always offers anyways. Why don't I just take it?
He just doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to go through. Yeah, he doesn't want to go through the rigmarole of like asking for it or saying, yes, please, I could use the money. Like, the shame of that seemingly. So
right. Once again, the ego is.
Yeah. And would she have offered that much as he took?
Oh, probably not.
Yeah. And then in the following morning, Miles and Jack slink out of the house like burglars. They don't even wake her up. And this is her actual birthday. And they just, so he takes the money, they take her food, and then they slink off in the morning. So, Miles isn't looking too good so far.
Definitely not.
So you guys mentioned Maya and Stephanie. I don't know if you mentioned Stephanie yet. Yeah, but these are two ladies working in the wine industry that they meet on their way. And right before Miles and Jack's double date with Maya and Stephanie, Jack tells Miles that his ex-wife is getting remarried. Kind of an inopportune time, in my opinion. I could see what he was thinking. Like, they're there at the spot they used to hang out, and that would be a good moment. But that kind of throws him into a spiral for the rest of the night.
Yeah, if I was him, I definitely would not have told him for pretty much the entire trip. You know, I don't see the value, honestly, of telling him this until the final moment.
Yeah, that was rough. I really like that phone call he gives to his ex-wife. That seems very realistic to me in terms of the writing. Like, she picks up and you can instantly tell this has happened many times before.
Oh, Miles, you're drunk.
She even asks, where are you? Because I think instinctually, because she probably used to go get him or get somebody to pick him up from wherever he was blackout drunk, you know?
Yeah. No, that was quite a low moment for him. And his friend also knew as well. Like,
Oh, yeah, Jack was pissed.
he's like, did you drink and dial?
Are you going to fuck this up for me?
Dude, Jack can read Miles like a book.
Oh, man.
At every turn, despite Miles' insistence to the contrary, he can read him like no other. I mean, when he's asking, oh, did you tell Maya about my upcoming wedding? No. And he's like, sounds fishy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, dude, I know you. Even though it's weird, like, when Miles finally reveals what their relationship is, they were college roommates in freshman year. It's like, of all the things to have, like, developed that relationship. Because, you know, when I first see them, I think, oh, they've been childhood friends.
Mm-hmm.
Or somewhere thereabouts. No, it's like college roommate. You know, I don't know about you guys, but, like, at least my college experience, like, yeah, I met some people in college and I'll consider them friends, but I wouldn't consider them that close.
Well, that gives me the impression that both of them haven't been able to keep any of their friendships.
Well,
Like, they're the last for each other.
Well, Miles probably ruined some of his friendships once he got divorced. To be
Yeah, I'm
honest.
sure.
Like, I
I think-
imagine a lot of his friends were probably through his ex.
I think with Miles's, you know, outward
Neebishness.
personality, his characteristics, it's hard for him to make friends. You know, his personality is not very likable in general. And then I think on the other end, Jack has trouble really keeping the friends. Like, he can make friends for the moment because, you know, he puts on like a smile. And
Yeah, he's a good time.
He's like charming and fun. But at the end of the day, I feel like he's the type of guy that will generally leave you high and dry.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, burn bridges.
Yeah, he burns bridges, you know? Like, he'll party with you, but then he seems a little bit like a moocher. Like, he will ask for things more than he gives. And I feel like Miles is the only one that he's willing to give to. Almost like his redemption friend.
Yeah.
You know, I got to make sure you're okay. You're my last
He does
hope.
look after Miles, yeah.
You
His
know?
foundation, yeah.
Whereas everyone else, he doesn't give a crap about, you know.
For sure.
You could tell by, you know, all the women he's trying to get. You know, he knows they're married, for example, that one girl he gets with. And he's like, yeah. Well, Miles was like, oh, did you know that she was married? He was like, yeah, but he was supposed to come in at 6 a.m. He came in at 5, the bastard, you know.
So speaking of this, I think Miles' dysfunction is pretty easy to understand. But what's Jack's? Why is he a serial skirt chaser?
Why?
I think that's like in his personality in part, like to what Danny was alluding to. It's like,
I think it's more than that. It feels like a dysfunction on his part. Like, he does it to his detriment. That far.
Well,
certainly.
Well, in this particular moment in time in his life, it's because he knows that part of his life is going away. He is going to be getting married. He knows that.
Right.
He knows that he's getting older.
He met his wife while hitting on her while she's a waitress with a diamond ring on her hand.
Right. Oh, right. So,
I mean, I think he was always like that.
he was always like that to an extent, but now he's taking it to the next level because he knows it's his final hurrah before getting married. And he wants to just get laid one more time. So you see him kind of like,
One more time.
well, that's what he wanted. It ends up being more than once, but
Yeah.
but at the core, I mean, it seems like it's just kind of his personality type. I mean, he's an actor. I think naturally that kind of comes with a little bit of ego.
I think they're connected, yeah.
It's all about me. Please look at me. I am so pretty. Love me. Want me.
Yeah, I think it's just an ego thing, really, for him.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a point you talk about him being an actor. there's a point where he's begging Miles to help him get his wallet back with the wedding rings.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a note did he just act all that? Because like that's the first like biggest expression of emotion that we've seen from this man.
I can't lose Christine. I know I fucked up. I know I did a bad thing, all right? And I know I'm a bad person. I know I am. But you gotta help me. You have to help me, Miles. Tell me you'll help me. If I lose Christine, I am nothing.
Every other time he's like somewhere like just very calm, very level-headed, seemingly, you know, kind of lascivious a bit, but ultimately, you know, level-headed. I think the movie's trying to tell us like all of it's hitting him at once, and you know he's kind of revealing why he's acting this way. But at the same time, a part of me is like, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the kind of guy that would kind of put on airs or act that way, or maybe lean into a bit more than how he's actually feeling.
I hope
Miles
not.
to help him.
I hope not, because that's sociopathic level.
I liken him to like a cheeseburger. It's like, oh, it's great to eat like one day, but you don't want to eat a cheeseburger every day because then you're gonna get sick.
Sure.
That's an interesting analogy.
But yeah, I think in that moment, as he's breaking down, he's realizing for himself that he does love his fiancée, and everything else was kind of feeding an obsession or an addiction. I thought the addiction was to that feeling of being needed, of being wanted, of being the man in a new relationship, and that lust, because it seemed to me like that's the part that he was chasing. That comes from also acting.
It's that kind of adrenaline feel, you know. It's that high of the chase, I think, that he really enjoys. I think that's also part of being an actor as well, getting those moments, I think.
Right.
And what he's not going to get from his fiancée.
Exactly. He's not going to get that ever again. Some people just never want that to stop, you know. That's why some people can't be tied down to relationships. They like that feeling of just chasing the girl, getting the girl, and then once that's done, the dopamine levels are down.
And the power you feel from that.
And the power you feel, right. And but once you get her, it's down, and you're like, okay, enough of that, moving on.
And in this case, I think it's even a bigger differential because she's wealthy and strong. She doesn't need him.
Yeah.
You know, she's choosing him with his warts and all, and that freaks him out.
Yep.
I think that also speaks to him feeling maybe a little bit emasculated by how his life has gone.
Sure, it probably wouldn't be so bad if he was a big actor.
Yeah, because he's not a big actor. He hasn't gotten his big break.
Yeah. Right now he's just like a voice actor, and barely a voice actor. He just does like the warnings for
his wife is essentially
medications.
supporting him, I think.
Yeah.
They don't say that, but I think.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the father wasn't too big into him at first, but then, you know, he's like, hey, let me show you the ropes of the family business and things like that. And the way that he described his potential role in the family business, he didn't seem too excited about that. Like, it wasn't his, and it's just being given to him, so to speak. And maybe for him, he's feeling like, oh man, this, like, where's my life led me? So, you know, he's going into the one thing where he feels like he's got more control over, right? Just chasing women.
So yeah, going back to that moment with Jack breaking down, I have to agree with Alejandro with the fact that I believe it was legitimate. Like, he was just at a breaking point there. I mean, also he had just run several miles in the cold night.
He says 5 clicks. Is a click a mile? I've never used that term.
I've always heard that as kilometer.
Okay.
But it'd be weird for them to use kilometer.
So perhaps 5 kilometers running naked in the cold. I don't know how you even
Yeah, the first thing he says is, where's the Vicodin?
Yeah.
And his ankle.
So yeah, I just felt like he felt his world was crumbling down in front of him. He felt like he had left the wedding rings in his wallet inside the house where he got caught. And he just felt, well, I can't explain this. I can't get out of this. This is too much, you know. So he needed help. He couldn't do it himself. You know,
Yeah,
he had injured his ankle as well.
Yeah, and he couldn't. Maybe he could have explained it away, but he couldn't risk it because that's all he has left at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that whole time, and he's looking for a way to explain every incongruency to his fiancée when she gets back, like his nose. You know, he's like, oh, I can crash the car, can't I?
Oh my
right?
God,
Like,
that
wear your
scene.
seatbelt. Like at every turn, he's always trying to explain away something.
It's totally the behavior of a serial liar. Like he knows how to solve every issue quickly. You know, he's on his feet.
Yeah, you could tell in his personality, he's willing to. He doesn't care about anyone else when he truly wants something done. You know, like he wants. He doesn't want his future wife to find out any of this stuff. He's willing to crash his friend's car without even telling him. He just says, "Hey, put on your seatbelt. I just want you to be safe."
Yeah.
And then crashes into a tree.
What the fuck?
You know, he forgets all about his friend when he meets Stephanie, and they start going out.
Oh yeah, he bails
dates.
on him for like a day or 2 days.
Yeah, or more. Just days of Miles just having to be alone because Jack's, out there getting it.
Yeah, especially Jack knows how Miles is. He knows the kind of person he is. So to do that, is like very heartbreaking for Miles. He's like, bro, you're really abandoning me here?
It almost feels like he has no empathy.
What's weird, because like, yeah, he does. I think he has some sympathy, but maybe not empathy. Like he can't really understand, seemingly, how Miles is feeling. Like he can understand that Miles is down and depressed and self-loathing and things like that. But yeah, I think you're onto something. I don't know that he truly understands it.
You never see him really feeling bad for Miles and wanting to help him in that regard. It always feels like he has something to gain.
I think they're both in the same way. They're both going through things and really just focused on their own issues.
Yeah.
Talking about some of the characters, can we talk about Maya and Stephanie for a moment?
I want to talk about Maya. Yeah.
So let's talk about Stephanie first. I feel like maybe we have more about Maya.
Okay.
Because Stephanie is not seen as much, and she's a bit more bohemian,
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's very free-spirited, very sexual, clearly, because from the first encounter, the things that she tells Jack, I don't want to repeat them, but...
You are a bad, bad girl, Stephanie.
I know I need to be spanked. Excuse me.
It alludes to the fact that she's already ready to
Yeah,
hook up.
She knows what she
essentially.
wants, for sure.
She's like probably the most determined out of the whole group. She knows what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
She understands her life situation. She makes the best of it. She doesn't downplay it at all. And, she's looking for someone seemingly to like be a part of all that, right? And Jack was seemingly the one, again, on
I
the
thought that was
outside.
a little naive of her to so quickly trust him, though.
True. Yeah, I mean, not to say she's perfect by any stretch, but at the very least, she's getting swept up in the emotion of everything, to an extent. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say that she's too naive. It's just they were together and that's how she felt. It's not like they made any commitments per se.
Yeah, but when you're dealing with a kid, I think you should have your guard up a bit more than letting her get attached to this guy you just met.
Yeah.
I
mean,
get,
sometimes it's not easy.
No, for sure.
Sometimes
for
you're
sure.
just swept by love and it happens.
And she might be worn down by like, dating and things like that. Who knows how long ago the father was out of the picture. So it's like she's really trying to make this work. And I imagine that it's been quite a while for her.
Yeah, Jack did go head first, full in, fully committed. And I don't think he was acting either. I think he was just swept up in the mania of it. So I could definitely see her getting fooled by it.
Yeah. I mean, and he was almost fooled by it because it's not like he was completely.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He wasn't
bullshitting.
acting.
Yeah, he wasn't acting. He actually felt it because there was a point where he was like telling Miles, "Hey, let's why don't we move here? You could start a winery, and I can just travel to LA's only 2 hours away. I can just commute there for work, and then I could just be with Stephanie."
Dude, I actually had a question about that. Not to pivot too hard, but like, would you guys ever take up an offer like that? Because as he explained it, yeah, it was very broad, very general. But
I know exactly where you're going with this.
But at the same time, it's like it feeds into how each person is, right? And it's for them seemingly an escape. So I mean, is that something that you guys would really take that offer if, say like one of us said like, hey, we got this like business proposition, here's what it is and let's do it?
It depends on who's giving the offer. I would not take that from Jack. He's clearly manic and completely fabricating an entire existence in a moment.
Yeah, he's very like, what's the flavor of the month? So
Yeah, could you trust him as a business partner?
That mindset will change. You know, he's gonna be like, let's say that they do it. Like within a month, he's gonna realize it's a mistake. He's gonna flake, and
or some other girl will come into town.
Some other girl, yeah. It's gonna be a lot of problems. But at the moment, I was trying to put my mind into Miles's perspective, and that felt like a comfortable offer. You know,
It
almost
absolutely did.
It was like, I love wine. Like this is a perfect place to write a book. Why not? Right? It feels like almost like I would take it if I was him at that moment. Especially at the point in his life that he's at, like, how bad can it be, you know? Versus being alone in some apartment and
but I think
feeling
he just
miserable.
knows Jack too well. Like the way he looks at him, like, oh yeah, great idea. Like he knows it's not gonna happen.
He says that too because I mean he's saying all this when he knows that he's supposed to get married in a week. So I think that's the big issue that Miles, you know, has. Like he doesn't find it believable. He's like, dude, you're about to get married.
Yeah. No, right, exactly. You can't believe it coming from Jack at this moment.
What do you think if Miles had suggested it?
That would have to be a huge
shift in his personality.
Character shift. Yeah, if he did it, you like I don't know, you'd have to take him seriously.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, we do see his personality shift in that direction towards the end of the movie, right? You know, his chasing of Maya at the end.
To 1/1000th of a degree, he's going and taking a chance and laying it on the line. And saying hi to a
just
girl.
to say hi, yeah, basically. He's not uprooting his life.
He didn't sell his apartment.
He's knocking on the door.
Yeah, but he is going to someone that's hours away, and he did chastise Jack early on for his relationship with Stephanie. It's like, this girl is like, you know, in this town, which is like hours and hours away from us. So he sees it as something that is not worthwhile because it's not, maybe in some cases, convenient, right? But
yeah,
then,
listen, it's a huge shift.
That,
yeah, it is. But it's just not to that same degree of uprooting your whole life.
Sure. But I think he's on the journey, on the path towards that, seemingly. Especially in light of like everything that went on in the film.
I'd like to think that that's where it's going, you know? I mean, they leave it a little open-ended, you know, in a sense. Like, he's just going over there to say hello. You want to hope that, you know, he shifts towards that way, character-wise, you know, wanting to move towards Maya and have that happy ending.
Yeah. What'd you guys think of Maya anyways?
Maya's awesome. I really liked her. She's confident and sure of herself. The moment that really endeared her to me was when Miles compliments her wine palette. He says, very good, you're right on the money, to some notes she had made about some wine they were drinking. I don't know, this is a small detail, but I really liked it, that even though she had just shown that her palette was probably better than his, she just politely says thank you, and there's no ego or power dynamic or the feeling of being talked down to. And I personally found that really refreshing. Like, here's a person just living in the moment and isn't thinking about the social dynamic between the two of them. I think that just encapsulates her whole character of being really genuine and in the moment and sure of herself.
She seemed very mature, down to earth, grounded, and didn't have an ego. She just felt very kind, you know, so definitely a breath of fresh air there.
Incredibly patient.
Yeah.
Incredibly patient. I mean, what endeared her to me was her speech about why she likes wine. Right?
Oh, yeah, same.
Because it's basically her hitting on Miles, because it's not a rebuttal, but it's a response to his description of why he enjoys wine.
Pinot.
Which is, right,
specifically.
Pinot specifically. And it's basically just a description of himself at that point. And then her response is basically all the things that he likes, right? And she sees in herself that could be a good compliment to him, right? And it's very laden, it's almost sensual.
If I opened a bottle of wine today, it would taste different than if I'd opened it on any other day. Because a bottle of wine is actually alive, and it's constantly evolving and gaining complexity. That is until it peaks, like you're 61. And then it begins its steady, inevitable decline. And it tastes so fucking good.
Man, he just doesn't take the bait.
No,
I don't think he deserves her at that point. There's so much self-loathing in him that he kind of intentionally drops the ball there. And then even worse, comes in after the moment has dropped and kisses her really awkwardly. Complete sabotage.
Well, because he beats himself up. he's in the bathroom. He's like, he messed it up.
Well, because there's that conflict. Like, he wants to get with her, but I don't think he feels like he deserves her at that point.
I don't think he has the capacity to like really be in a relationship.
Well, yeah, that too.
And I really enjoyed in that, conversation after he speaks about the Pinot, and she makes a note about his 61 Cheval LeBlanc, which is a wine that he's had for quite a while that he was saving to share with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're now
On their
divorced.
anniversary, right?
But Maya mentions that every wine has a peak and then it slowly begins to decline,
And this one might be past peaking.
past peaking, right? But as she kind of says that, she puts her hand on his hand, and I feel like that was a very good parallel as to the moment there, like almost like that was the peak.
Well, 1,000%.
Of the moment to take, and he passed it up. He then started saying, "Oh, I like this wine too," and he just wanted to keep talking about wine. Well, he didn't want to, but he was just too nervous to make any move. And
no, I definitely agree that the wine was analogous to him, to himself,
to the window that he had at that very moment.
Well, beyond that moment in his life,
yeah.
his life is passing him by. He's waiting for a special opportunity to start living it, and she's like, "No, it's peaking
Live it
now, or
now.
even past. Yeah, you got to open that bottle.
Yeah.
The day that you open that bottle is the day that's the celebration.
That's the special occasion.
That's the special occasion.
Opening up the bottle. Yeah.
Right.
And I love that he then realizes that, and the part after the wedding where everyone's driving off to the reception, and they're every car's following each other like a caravan, making a right at the street, and you see his car very clearly, the red.
He abandons the reception.
He abandons it. He goes left, and he gets the wine. He goes to some random burger joint. It looks like a Five Guys or something, and he's drinking the 61 Cheval out of a styrofoam cup
with a burger and onion rings.
Completely
unpretentious.
And he's loving it.
Yeah.
Is he loving it?
Yeah.
I think so.
I don't. The look on his face made it seem like he was depressed at that moment.
It was acceptance to me.
It's a bittersweet moment. Like, he's kind of accepting, like, damn, this is what I should have been doing, kind of thing. Like, look at me. Like, now I'm drinking it. I'm enjoying this wine, but
it's not what I wanted.
It's not what I wanted. It's not what I had realized. Yeah, I mean, or I realized too late, and now I'm like, I might have lost this person.
Well, what's the impetus for him doing this? What is he told right before he drives off?
His ex-wife's pregnant.
His ex-wife's pregnant. Life is passing him by. It's now or never.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I had a little bit of a different read, only because immediately after that scene, you see him working, and he's just 1,000-yard stare, like seemingly completely depressed. We see him check his mail, and he's kind of like drooping. It's like the sad Charlie Brown meme where
But I don't think that was a depression. I don't think that was an internal depression. It was a depression of his life. He's like, I don't want to be in this seat anymore teaching these kids. I need to move on.
Yeah.
And that's what he does. Not necessarily that he's depressed right now.
Well, the impetus for him trying to move on is the phone call, is the voicemail. But
no, I disagree.
That, well,
I think he was already doing that.
He has a new mentality.
The outlook
now.
is already there.
The outlook changed. When he's eating that burger and drinking the Cheval, it's changed, but he's still not happy because his life hasn't changed yet. He's unhappy about it now. He's realizing what he should have been doing, but he's still unhappy. But then the phone call is the opportunity.
Right.
And then he makes his choice with his new outlook, and his choice is to just put everything else down and drive all the way back over there just to knock on her door.
And in fact, this change is actually a continuation of something he had kind of started while they were on their trip. After he was looking at his porno rag and eating candy and kind of passed out, he had waken up and showered, got ready, and went to the restaurant to go see Maya. And that was actually the turning point in their relationship, when Maya started to be reciprocal to him, when she realizes he's actually making an effort. Because before that, he was kind of just being dragged along. And she could feel that. He wasn't really into it. So he starts there, and then of course the relationship breaks apart because of things that happen, and then his transformation continues later on.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyway, yeah, Maya and Stephanie find out about Jack's wedding. Everything blows up. Jack gets viciously beat in the face, which is why they have to have that car crash later to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Stephanie wails on him. I think Jack deserves it to some extent.
Oh, for sure.
I was like, oh God, ooh, that was kind of rough to watch.
That was rough. But going back to what you guys had talked about before, Jack's breakdown, I was wondering, do you guys actually think that was the first time he realized he loved his fiancée? Or was this something all along?
I don't know if I'm not totally convinced that he loves his fiancée.
You don't think he ever loved her?
Or even still, yeah.
I don't know. It feels a little irrelevant, actually, whether he loves her or not. He just more accepted the fact that he needs to move forward in his life, I think.
So the breakdown was fear about losing the life he's built, not so much losing her because he loves her?
Losing stability.
That's exactly what I was thinking, yeah.
And losing, he had lost his way. This is the next part of his life, the next cycle in his life, and he needs to just do it in a way.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the right
I buy
decision.
that. I buy it. Yeah.
Yeah, because like nothing he does or says ever really makes me think that he actually loves her. Like, he can't wait to get out of the house in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that has more to do with her family. I'm not sure. But yeah, at every moment, like, he doesn't want to talk to her. You know, when she leaves some voicemails for him, he's like, oh, I got lucky. It went to voicemail. Problem solved.
No, I think you're right. It seems stability, and he realizes nothing better is going to come his way.
Exactly. It's the best he's going to get. And
I almost kind of wish he got caught. He's kind of a douchebag.
Massive douchebag.
Yeah, he is.
From the moment he says, I'm getting my nut, he's a douchebag.
I think, he just knows that he's never going to be satisfied. He's always going to want to be going after women and all this stuff. It's never going to...
Do you think he's changed now? Or is he still going to take risks?
Oh, he's still going to take risks. I mean, unfortunately, maybe it's just my perception of things, but I think once a cheater, kind of always...
Yeah, I think once... I mean, he's realizing also that he's getting older. There's going to be a point where he can't do that anymore, successfully.
Speak for yourself, man. I get chicks looking at me all the time, all ages. Dudes, too.
He doesn't have the money to do it either.
So he won't cheat again?
I think he'll try.
You think he'll try? Okay.
I don't know. It's tough to say. I hope he changes. Like, I would like him to change, but I don't really see it right now. I feel like even during the wedding, he was giving, like,
really
Miles a look, like, wink. Like, we did it, buddy.
We made it.
We made it through. We bullshitted this, Like, that's the feeling I got when he was looking at Miles. I don't know if you guys felt the same way.
I didn't even catch that, but no, I believe you. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think he's going to take risks again.
Yeah, I saw that look. It was more like, thank you for getting me here. At least that's the impression that I got. It was like, couldn't have done this without you.
Do you remember what his mission statement was when he was speaking to Miles in the beginning? How he put it?
Oh, I'm going to get my nut. I'm going to get my nut on this trip.
Do you remember the full line?
No, I don't have the full line. You want to say it if you have it?
Yeah.
I knew you had it.
I am going to get my nut on this trip, Miles, and you are not going to fuck it up for me with your depression and anxiety and neg-head downer shit. That's a friend.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in a very small degree, I understand that he's like, I don't want your problems to get in the way of my bachelor party, which is basically what this is, right?
And doesn't really take his Miles' problems too seriously. At one point he says, fuck therapy, fuck Xanax and Lexapro 2. You need to get your joint worked on, Miles. He really doesn't take his buddy too seriously.
I don't think that at that point he wasn't taking him seriously. He wasn't taking those specific avenues of help seriously. Like I feel like he just doesn't really believe in therapy.
Like, Miles is compensating as opposed to like him actually having depression. He's kind of numbing himself.
Yeah, Jack just doesn't feel that therapy is the solution. He just feels like you got to get out there, you got to live life. Just go live life. You're just living in this box right now. Get out there. Go. What was it? What was the line?
Don't you want to feel that cozy little box right down in your Johnson?
Oh my!
Right, as he walks past a grandfather. Right, as he walks past a grandfather and his son. And he's like, "Hey, what in the world?"
Yeah, for Jack, it's like sex solves everything.
Right.
Essentially.
Right.
Just fuck everything.
Right. Why are you numbing yourself with drugs when
You can numb yourself with sex.
Yeah, that's his one avenue of happiness for him, you know. So he's like, yeah, just do it. You'll feel much better.
You can do it.
So, well, one thing we didn't really talk about, but it's really a huge part of the movie itself, is the location, right? The vistas, the
wine country.
The wine country landscape of Northern California, I believe it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I recognized that general area because I used to live there.
And
around that area anyways.
Right. And I feel just like in Bruges, it played a big part in helping move this story along to a sense.
For whatever reason, I don't feel like it was a character, though. But just kind of facilitates the story.
I felt like for Miles especially, it worked as a bit of a catalyst and as a parallel to his life, at least the way he talks about it. You know, it felt like a necessary setting.
Yeah, I would agree with you about the setting playing a big role in the film. I don't think it does to the extent that In Bruges does, because it directly ties to like the theme of that movie. Whereas this one, it's more as an avenue for the characters to, I guess, better express themselves.
Yeah.
Right. You know, for Jack, it's like, oh, look at this beautiful place. We got to explore. Right. Look at all these beautiful women. We have to explore.
You can do it.
Right. For Miles, it's like, oh, look at all this wine. I get to drink all this. Right. Or, oh, think of the golfing. But beyond that, it's not like you could have found other similarly beautiful looking areas that maybe aren't like specific wine country, and I think it probably would have worked.
Yeah, I just don't think the environment affected the two of them specifically. They're just kind of going through their shit there.
Okay.
I don't have a great argument for it, but it just doesn't feel like a character to me, like In Bruges did.
No, definitely. I In Bruges definitely does that in a stronger way for sure, like more impactful. But as I was watching this movie, I was thinking back to In Bruges, like, okay, there's like I can feel a similarity.
Gotcha.
There, but not as impactful. I will say the movie did have an impact on wine sales.
I heard, actually.
So we hear during the movie that Miles is talking a lot about Pinot Noir. I mean, he loves Pinot Noir, and because of all that, that year.
Why does he love it though? It's a thin-skinned grape.
It's a thin-skinned grape. It takes a lot of care and love.
You can't just grow it anywhere.
Can't just grow it anywhere.
Anyway, continue.
Put him on the spot.
Anyways. So due to this part, I assume partially due to this movie, Pinot Noir wines rose by about more than 20% over that year.
What about Merlots? What happened to them?
Compared to the same period the previous year, and a similar thing happened with the Merlot. So Miles is always talking shit about the Merlot. He hates Merlot. He will never drink it. And the sales dropped after that film came out.
Oh, man.
That's amazing.
That's some next level spite by
and ironically, the prized bottle, the 1961 Cheval Blanc, it's actually a blend of Merlot.
No way.
Yeah. It's actually a blend of Merlot.
That is
and
funny.
Cabernet. I believe also I read somewhere that the director's the one that chose all the wines for this.
Okay.
Himself. So maybe it was intentional.
Maybe.
He might be a wino. What do you call those people?
Well,
wine
wino's
enthusiast.
Wino's just a drunk.
Yeah,
Oh, whoops.
wino's someone who drinks like cheap wine or alcohol.
Right,
and is
right,
usually
right.
pretty
Okay,
drunk.
fine. He might be a wine
Connoisseur?
enthusiast. Connoisseur, yeah.
I mean,
They're called wineheads, actually.
No, that's not true.
whinies.
Whinies. Oh.
You know, talking about the location kind of accentuating certain aspects of the film. What did you guys think about the score?
I really liked it. I thought it complemented the movie well and helped things flow along.
Yeah, it was a soft jazz score the entire time. Pretty like easy listening jazz, kind of goes with the environment, goes with kind of what they're going through a little bit.
Nothing outstanding, but I think it it's appropriate and it gives it a breezy feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely lends to the area. I think it complements the location very well.
Oh, definitely.
Because, you know, whenever I used to be there, I would think of soft jazz all the time.
Right.
No. Yeah, it lends itself to kind of, I think it's for me, a little bit wistfulness. Because I've just moved back from that area about a year and a half ago. I don't know. Sometimes I think of the area, I'm like, oh, you know, I miss it a bit. The location, at least. And actually, the way that the film, you know, complementing the soundtrack of the film is the way that the film I thought was shot, where it was a bit, maybe it was just like the HBO Max version, but it felt a little glossy almost. Did you guys get a sense that it was maybe a little bit glossy or a little
Certain moments.
I watched the Blu-ray. I didn't get that impression, so maybe there's a difference there.
There were certain moments that seemed a little glossy. What I did notice is the whole movie is very bright, very cheerful. You know, like it's not shot very like stylistically per se.
I have a negative about the light, but I'll get to that during my score.
Okay. I liked the light personally. I liked that it was just
seemed like a lot of natural lighting and
yeah, it was very
areas.
natural to me, and it just kind of went with where they're at and what they were doing. You know,
it struck me as kind of bland and flat.
Flat.
Yeah, I thought they could have done more during a lot of scenes, but especially the ones where they could really boost it and have some dynamics. Like at nighttime, you can have some strong single lights, and it's just always evenly lit.
I felt like that's what the movie called for. You know,
Yeah.
I felt like the movie.
I thought it was a consequence of budget, but
Well, it was a pretty low budget. The budget was $16 million.
that's low as hell.
That's very, very low. So it could be a little bit of that, but I felt like for this movie it really worked because it's just really a character-focused movie. You know, just
I'll admit it gives it a specific charm. I think I just would have preferred some more dynamism.
Yeah, to me it was very unobtrusive,
Mhm.
and I think it did its job well there. Like Danny said, it's more about the characters, so you just want to make sure everything looks pretty, so
Yeah.
you can see how these characters interact and how they, you know, progress.
the lighting for some reason reminds me a little bit of that movie. I think it's called Holiday. It has like Jack Black and
Really?
Kate Winslet.
Yeah.
I feel like it has that similar kind of, you know, quote unquote flat style.
Gotcha.
You know, I wasn't thinking, oh, the lighting is flat. I felt like it was fine, but they were just like, all right, yeah, light it evenly and let's move on, kind of thing. But yeah, for me, like I said, I feel like it worked.
Functional.
Yeah.
Unobtrusive.
Yes.
Yes.
All good words.
Just like the jazz was,
Right.
pretty much.
Well, the jazz maybe just get more in the mood for the film. Like if it was just like a standard, you know, mid 2000s soundtrack, especially movies of that time, this film would not have worked.
No.
So I appreciate the soft jazz.
My God, it's Bourne.
What?
You just said mid 2000s movie. I think Jason Bourne.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
I think the mix of,
the main theme.
Nice.
I will say the mix of jazz and the location also made me really want to go to wine country, you know, check it out.
It's beautiful.
Do some wine tours, you know, we should do it.
And in addition to wine sales, imagine how much tourism got boosted from this movie.
I can imagine.
So, you guys ready to give scores?
Yes, sir. I
And
believe.
yes, I did take it.
I'm glad. I believe it's your turn to start first, Sean.
I give it a 9 out of 10.
Tighter than a nun's asshole, but good concentration. Nice fruit.
Hey-o.
I love this movie. It's such a deep character study of two people who are perpetually in a spiral in their own unique ways. And I think most everything about this film works. You know, I love the music. I grew to love the characters despite their flaws. The acting was tremendous. You know, I enjoyed the themes and the overall messaging of the film. And to me, it's such a lovely film that I'd want to go back and watch it every other year. So yeah, 9 out of 10.
Very cool. I'm going to go 8.5 out of 10.
Quaffable, but far from transcendent.
A brilliant character study wrapped up in a road trip romantic comedy. My only problem with it is presentation. I thought, like I had said, the lighting was flat. despite the idyllic locations, and it kind of reminded me of a made-for-TV 90s movie. But considering the budget and the fact that it really doesn't take away from it, I still highly recommend it to anybody except maybe small children.
Well, I give it an 8.5 as well.
I've come never to expect greatness from a Cab Franc, and this one is no different.
Ooh.
I thought...
Do you want to do that again?
No, that's good.
Yeah, I felt just the writing was impeccable. I think that's really what carried this entire film.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
I can't say, yeah, the lighting wasn't spectacular. The score wasn't anything, you know, amazing. It was just fine. It held the movie up to where, you know, it needed to. It needed to. It didn't do more than it had to. The reason, I guess, for me that it wasn't scored higher was sometimes the pacing was a little off for me. Sometimes it moved a little too slow without kind of moving the story along in certain moments. I felt like it could have been tightened up a little bit. It was a bit of a long movie, clocking in at about, I think,
2 hours.
About
just
2 hours.
a little over 2 hours, yeah.
I think it could have been cut a little short. But overall, really liked it. All right, next week, join us for Force Majeure 2014. Vacationing in the French Alps isn't as fun under a million tons of snow. Directed by Ruben Ostlund. You can find it on YouTube, Paramount Plus, Amazon, Hulu, and Blu-ray. Sean, where can they find us?
You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Ardent Cinema. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, please give us a rating and a review. It really goes a long way towards helping the podcast. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, please give each video a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the little notify bell so you're made aware when new episodes drop every week. Thank you very much, guys, for listening. And with that, we bid you a Happy New Year and also an adieu. Goodbye.
Happy New Year. Farewell.
Long live the new flesh.
Ding dong. Wait, that's